Hello everybody, welcome back to the Garage Built. Today we are working on my 1966 Ford LTD, getting it ready for power tour. Today we are going to be replacing the passenger heat riser in the exhaust. Now at this time I've already disconnected the exhaust and pulled out the riser and set it up in my vise over here to show you what it is. So a heat riser is basically just a piece of cast iron that has been machined and had a little trap door added in the middle here. On the other side, it's got a pin that goes through with a spring and a counterweight that pivots. Now, what this does is it creates a block off in the exhaust that forces exhaust back up through the head and through the intake manifold out the other exhaust. The purpose of this is to heat up your intake manifold for cold starts, especially in the wintertime. Basically, what happens here is the spring, when it's cold, is tight and it holds this counterweight up. Now this is about how it would be in the car. So it would be shut, you'd have your exhaust going up until everything comes up to at least a warmer temperature. As this gets hot and the spring softens, the weight starts to turn down and that opens up your exhaust. Now why am I pulling this off of my car? Now as I said in my first video, this is a 1960s Ford tri-power intake. This is aluminum and not cast iron. The way these work is right around here, you can see the little indent on the passenger bank, and then another matching one back here on the driver's bank. And there's a heat crossover right in the middle of this. Now, on the aluminum intakes, they are famous for overheating, rotting, and eventually blowing out, creating a hole that needs to be repaired in your intake. This intake does not have a blown out hole yet, so I've actually added block-off plates on either head, so there's no longer a need to have my little block off in the exhaust. So I'm going to be replacing this original cast iron one, which is actually cracked on both sides. I don't know if it's going to come through, with a spacer. Now this spacer has the exact same dimensions. All the holes line up to the center, and it has very similar castings, and this will basically create just a straight through exhaust, at least at the exhaust manifold, creating less back pressure. Now I originally had this in here and I ran it for a couple of years with it in the block off plates in. The only issue was on cold starts, when this was shut and the exhaust was pushing by, it would ting a little bit, and it always sounded like you had rod knock, and you could never really tell if you had any other noises going on when you'd start. So this will be a nice little addition and quiet it down in these starts. So I actually have a spare 1965 cast iron manifold, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. So over here you can see one of the dimples. It would come through the middle and then out the other side, and then where it meets the head, you can see the hole there for the crossover, and a matching one here if it's not in the shade. And here's the bottom. You can see a lot of the carbon buildup inside there, but you can follow it. It comes down through the middle and out the other side. And like I said, that just pushes exhaust through the intake, causes it to heat up faster. So the way these mount in the car, you'll notice the top side is machine flat, or originally it was. It's quite pitted right now. And on the bottom, you have a machined groove. So there's a matching machine surface on your passenger side exhaust manifold. You'd have a gasket, this is the one I took off, that would sit in there and seal between there. And then on the bottom, you have one of these metal donut rings. And then that would sit up in the top, and there'd be a matching flare on your exhaust pipe. And then this whole thing would squish together and create a seal. So up until this point, what have I done to get this out? Like I showed over here, I've already disconnected the passenger side exhaust. And I had to do the same on the driver's side. I don't know if we can see it. To be able to get enough flex in the pipe to push everything down and out of the way. There are two studs in your header that stick through the bottom. So you have to get enough flex in the exhaust to push it down far enough to get this all the way down off of those studs. That's one of the benefits of replacing it with one of these. You don't have to flex the whole, unbolt and flex the whole exhaust to get it out. You should be able to just pull it out now going forward, pop in and slide into place like that. So like I said, I disconnected both exhausts on either side, pulled everything down, and then I was able to, on this side, slide the block off and get it out. So what I'm going to do now is run to the store, buy a new gasket, and then we will throw in my new spacer. And just in case anyone's wondering, I picked this up at Eckler's online. So like I said before, to take this off, I had to completely remove the exhaust, pull it out of the way, and then slide it down off of the two studs that would run through here. To put the new spacer back in, I'm going to do it a little bit different. So as you've noticed, there's no through holes through here. They're notched. So to put this in, what I'm going to try to do is put the two studs in, and then get it loose. I can slide that on the bottom stud, and then I can slide this into place, and then I don't have to line everything up all at once. It'll be, I think, a little bit easier, but we'll see. I got her in. It's all tight. My theory, like I said, was to put it in on this stud, rotate it in. I couldn't get it to go with the donut, yet somehow it fell out 4 times on me when I was tightening everything up, but it's in now, good and tight. So sweet. You can see it in there now. Studs are all tightened up and no more little counterweight in the side. So straight through. And then on this side, everything's all tightened up. So it actually wasn't too bad. I remember doing this, putting the exhaust in the first time, and when it came, this is an H pipe, so the two sides have a set spacing away from each other, and when they made it, they must have been pinched just a little bit. Had to kind of pull it apart either way, get it up and tight. It's gone through a couple of heat cycles now, so it's pretty much where it wanted to be. As soon as I tightened this side up, this other side, driver's side, went right into place. Just had to put the nuts on it, so easy enough. That'll do it. So from here, I'm not sure where I'm going to go yet. I have a couple more things I have to do in the engine bay. This intake gasket, there's a little bit of water popping out this side, and then down in here, my head gaskets got a little bit of oil coming out of it. So those got to both get done. Same time, I got to take my radiator over and have it patched. I got a little bit of a leak. Can't really see it, but it's up in here. It's coming right down the fins. So it's got to get pressure tested and repaired. That's why I prefer these brass radiators over the new aluminum ones. At least that's what I've been told over the years, that these brass ones, when they start to leak, you can still take them out, you can still repair them without having to go through and replace the whole setup. The aluminum ones, you got to stop leak or replace them. Or at least that's what I've been told. So for that reason, I stick with these. You don't get as much cooling. I believe the aluminum ones cool a little better. But like I said, once these ones spring and leak, you can actually take it over, have them fixed versus just replacing the thing. So that's got to come out. This fan belt was a little bit loose and it chowdered up the lower rad hose. So that also has to get fixed. But other than that, it's all pretty small stuff. Once that's all done, I can put it back together and be off and running. After that, or maybe before that, I'm not sure yet, I gotta do the new mufflers on this. I have them upstairs. I just gotta put them in. And then I want to get my cigarette lighter working. That way, once we're driving, I have GPS and phone charging along the route. So if you have any questions or anything, let me know. Drop them down bottom. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you next time.